Hello, BookTube. This is one of my started videos in which I talk about my reasons for beginning a new reading project. In these videos, I talk about why I wanted to read, or in this case, reread a certain book. It's largely all background about why the book has interested me at this particular time. And then it doesn't really get into much of the contents of the book itself. For that, you can come back for the review after I finish the book. So, with that caveat out of the way, the book here is Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Apologies for this camera, which is going to show it in the mirror image. This is a book that I'm familiar with from elementary school. Now, my elementary school was a long time ago, so the memories are a little bit fuzzy. I remember the teacher reading it to us, as is common in elementary schools. There was a reading time every day. So the teacher would sit in her big chair at the front or on her stool. We would sit on the ground beneath her, and she would pull out the book and read us a chapter, and we would all listen. So I guess a bit like doing an audiobook, although when I was doing story time at elementary school, my attention was not wandering, as can sometimes happen to me now in adulthood when I try to do an audiobook. My attention was fully focused on the teacher and the book. So I feel like I absorbed it just as well as if I had read it. I think actually more than one elementary school teacher may have read this book to us. For example, we may have heard it in first grade and then again in third grade or something like that. I don't remember clearly, but I have a vague memory of this coming up in multiple grades. And at some point, I want to say maybe fourth grade, the teacher showed us the movie of Charlotte's Web. Now, this was the 1970s cartoon movie, and this was back, in the 1980s when seeing a movie at school was actually a big deal. I'm a teacher now myself, and I've definitely noticed with my students, the appeal of watching a movie in class does not seem to hold the same appeal to them that it did to me. I was absolutely entranced when we got to watch a movie because watching a movie was a special thing. Um, that may have been unique to me because my parents did control my television habits because definitely TV was not a new thing when I was a child. But whatever. And it's funny looking back on it now. A lot of my memories, when I picture the book, a lot of my memories are actually memories of scenes from that movie. Even though I think I only ever saw the movie just that once, just one time in fourth grade, but scenes seem to have stuck in my mind better than the book. So, for example, when I'm imagining Charlotte's children getting carried away by the wind, what pops up in my imagination is the scene from the movie. So, anyways, that's my background with the book. So, obviously, this is going to be a reread, kind of. Although, like I said, I'm not entirely sure. But maybe I never actually read it myself with my own eyes, but was definitely exposed to it plenty of times as a kid. So, in that extent, in that respect, it's going to be a reread. So, how this book came to my attention nowadays. I'm currently working as an English teacher out here in Vietnam and teaching advanced students who I'm trying to encourage to do more reading and listening outside of class. There is a website set up by a guy in Australia called eslbits.net. That's esl-bits, bits.net. I'll link to it down below in the description. And he has set up a number of free reading and listenings where he has the text from the book accompanied by what appear to be a professional quality audiobook. I've talked about this site before, actually, when I was talking about Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of Nim, which I also got from that website. I'm not entirely sure if it's legal. I don't know. You tell me. I suspect not. I I heavily suspect not. I was talking to my coworkers about it because the site seems to be semi-professionally done, and it's in the world of English language teaching seems to be getting a lot of traction. A lot of people know about it. I think it gets a lot of traffic. So I'm a bit surprised it's still up and running. One of my coworkers said, he said, "Well, are there any ads on the website?" And I said, "No, it's completely nonprofit." He said, "Well, then they don't care." So the copyright holders would only care if the guy is trying to profit off of it. I I don't know. Discuss among yourselves in the comments. What do you think? Because even though he's not making a profit out of it, it would still potentially add up to a loss of sales from the copyright holders. But all that legal speculation is just really speculation on my part. I haven't yet had a moral issue with recommending that website to my students. So I've been recommending it to my students, and because even though they're advanced students, they're still doing English as a second language, and there is a lot of material on that website. Not all of which, in my opinion, is appropriate for second language learners. There are a lot of heavy classics on there, which it's good that he's making these available for second language learners, but maybe whatever. uh, some of the stuff that is maybe more appropriate for second language learners, or at least the advanced ones, are the children's books, because sometimes children's books are at a good level for adults learning a second language. Sometimes not, because there's actually, in my experience, a fair amount of idioms and colloquialisms that pop up in children's books, maybe even more so than adults. So I've actually experienced a lot of students struggling with popular works of children's literature just because it's written more of a vernacular style that ESL students don't actually know. But anyways, this book was on that website, and I was recommending it to my students, and I was saying to them, I remember this book was read to me in elementary school. I must have been in first grade. I think it was read a couple times. It's a classic children's book. Such a charming little story. And on the website, if you go to it, they have full color illustrations from the book, and I was showing this to my students. I said, "Isn't this great? Look at all these pictures." You can look at the pictures, and then you can do this as a listening, and then you can read it again to check your listening comprehension. And as I was doing it, I was having fond memories of this book, which I've not encountered since elementary school. And was thinking to myself, maybe I'm due to revisit that book myself. And then my wife had a birthday coming up. And I always get her books for her birthday and Christmas, which I'm not entirely sure she appreciates. She's hinted to me a few times that she would like gifts that are not books. But I'm, as we all are on BookTube, I'm a bookish person, and I always love getting books as gifts, so I assume other people will as well. Although it's dangerous to give people books as gifts because people need to choose their own reading material. But I went to the bookstore, and they had this, and the illustrations in here were just really eye-popping, eye-catching, I should say. This is, again, apologies for this being mirror image, but this is, the full color version, as you can see here, full color edition. Again, apologies for that being backwards on the screen. I actually don't remember the illustrations in this book well, and again, it was read to me in elementary school, but just based on this, it looks like the colorized version came in 1999. Sorry, this isn't going to show up, is it? Okay, but the colorized copyright is 1999, and they've got here. They've got in here the writer E.B. White, the pictures Garth Williams, and then the watercolors of Garth Williams' artwork by Rosemary Wells, which indicates to me that these were added later. Yeah, considers. Oh yeah, okay. So as you can see, or as I can see here in the back, it says when it's giving the biography of Rosemary Wells, it says she considers Garth Williams one of the true geniuses of 20th century book illustrations, and feels that had he had today's technology available, he would have chosen to do the illustrations for Charlotte's Web in full color. So yeah, I guess the original illustrator. It sounds like, based on those verb tenses, that the original illustrator was dead by that time. But they've made the decision to add watercolor to his illustrations, and I don't know how you guys feel about messing with an artist's work after he's dead, but I really find these very visually appealing. So I got this for my wife. She expects books by now, and I've also learned to get her other things in addition to books, but getting the books as well. The toddler is going through a stage where the toddler has started to color in books, and my wife, when she's feeling a little bit overwhelmed at home, will sometimes just ignore it or be a little slow to stop it. So some of these gorgeous illustrations have unfortunately been colored over, but it's only a book, you know. It's not like a library book. It's in our own collection, and does not spoil the readability of it. I was just checking actually before filming this video, and I can still make out the words, even though the toddler has scribbled all over this. So anyways, my wife read it and really enjoyed it. She was laughing at the funny parts. She was asking me about some of the idioms. She was telling me, about the parts with the sheep talking to the pig and how funny they were. And I was, didn't remember this book maybe as well as I thought I did, because I was kind of not all the time recognizing what she was talking about. And I was thinking, I've got this YouTube channel in which I review books, and I talk about books on my blog. Maybe I should just reread this. And I thought, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I've got this rule I'm trying to implement with myself. Just clear out all the books you're currently reading, and then you can start some new books after that. And you also know, maybe if you've been following this channel for a while, that I'm terrible at keeping to that rule. So at the moment, I'm trying to finish off the Brothers Grimm and the Grammar book, bookmarks respectively here. And I'm getting a little bit bored with the Brothers Grimm. It's a little bit of a slog to read all these folk tales. And the Grammar book, of course, was never meant to be fun reading. And we're on lockdown here in Vietnam because of the fourth wave of the coronavirus. So I'm craving other distractions. That, and I came to the realization, my wife has ordered more books online, which we were able to get delivered to us by delivery because we can't go out of the apartment because of the coronavirus lockdown. But she was saying to me, what other books do you recommend for me to read to practice my English with? I was thinking, okay, what other children's books are really good? And I said, well, Roald Dahl. And so on my recommendation, she's ordered Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which just came in the mail today. I think she's barely just started this. And Charlie and the Glass Elevator, which is still in the wrapper, actually, because she's going to finish this one off first. And I thought, those are two more books that I very fondly remember from childhood that, maybe one of these days I would like to revisit. And then I thought to myself, okay, if you say to yourself, one of these days I'll revisit it someday when I get around to it, when I have enough time, when I've cleared out the other stuff on my reading list, you are never going to get around to it. You either grab those books and read them while they are still floating around in your apartment, before you do your next big move and you have to get rid of all your books because you're moving countries again, or before the toddler completely destroys this book. I either read it now or it's going to be like another 30 years or something before it comes across your way again, potentially. So I'm gonna bend my rules here about not starting any new books. The new rule is if a classic children's book comes through my apartment that my wife is reading, I'm just gonna grab it and quickly read it myself, and hopefully try not to get too much distracted from my main reading. I'm going to grab it after my wife has finished it. So this is one that my wife has already finished. I was asking her. I said, do you mind actually if I read that book now? I know I read it years before, but I'm way overdue for a reread of it. And she was a little bit non-committal, which I'm not entirely sure how to interpret. I think maybe she's a little bit worried that I'm already spending too much time reading and making YouTube videos and maybe not enough time helping out around the house, or perhaps perhaps a little bit confused about why I would want to go back to a book like this. But yeah, I mean this is a classic, isn't it? In its own genre, in the genre of 20th century children's literature. This is definitely a classic in that genre, and I'm overdue for a reread of it. And if I don't do it now, I'm going to forget, and then I'm going to get distracted by other stuff. So it's a short little book, 184 pages. So we're going to add that to my weekly reading for this week, and the goal is going to try and be to knock it out quickly as possible and go back to my other reading. But yeah, the purpose of this video is just to announce that I'm going to be starting this book. I'll talk about it in the weekly reading vlogs. And then once I finish it, I'll come back with a full review of it. Of course, this is a reread, but a review of how it strikes me now that I've got an adult sensibilities. So review of a book that I'm rereading and coming to maybe with new eyes.